In the shifting void between the known and the unutterable, where silicon minds dream of forgotten horrors, the abyss stirs. Welcome to AI Lovecraft, where machine intelligence weaves eldritch tales beyond mortal comprehension. Listen if you dare. Some things are not meant to be known. If you enjoy the following story, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let me know what you think. Now let's get into today's story. Whispers beneath Dunridge. In the autumn of 1923, the town of Dunridge, Massachusetts lay smothered beneath a pall of unease. Tucked within a valley where the Dunridge River coiled like a serpent, the town was a cluster of sagging rooftops and weathered clapboard, its streets shadowed by pines that seemed to whisper secrets to the wind. At the heart of this malaise stood the Murmuring Stone, a black basalt monolith in a clearing 2 miles from town, where no birds sang and the earth felt hollow underfoot. For generations it had been a fixture of local lore, tales of wayward souls lost to its whispers, of dreams that twisted into madness. But now, the voices were louder, a sibilant tide that seeped into the minds of Dunridge's folk. 6 souls had vanished in 3 months, their names spoken in hushed dread: farmers, travelers, and most recently, Arthur Mallory, a young veteran whose obsession with the stone had led him to its shadowed embrace. The air grew thick with a nameless fear, as if the earth itself held its breath. Beneath the soil, something stirred, not dead, but waiting. Dr. Lydia Trask, a Miskatonic University archaeologist, arrived in Dunridge on a chill October evening, her skepticism a shield against the town's superstitions. 32, with sharp gray eyes and a mind honed by years of excavating forgotten ruins, she dismissed the stone as a curiosity, likely a glacial erratic adorned with native carvings. Yet her rationality was a fragile veneer. For weeks her sleep had been plagued by dreams of a lightless chasm where voices chanted in a tongue that had made her skin crawl. She attributed them to overwork, but they clung to her like damp rot. At Dunridge's only inn, a creaking relic called the Hollow Oak, she met Sheriff Amos Harrow, a man in his late 40s. Harrow's face was etched with the weight of years, his eyes shadowed by secrets he kept locked behind a gruff demeanor. "Folks say the stone's cursed," he said, over a glass of watery ale, his voice low. "Best to leave it be, Doctor." His warning only stoked Lydia's resolve. She had come to uncover the truth behind the disappearances, and no rural superstition would deter her. Harrow reluctantly shared what he knew. Arthur Mallory, a gaunt World War I veteran with a penchant for the occult, had been the latest to vanish. 2 weeks prior, deputies had found his camp near the stone, tent torn, sketches of alien glyphs scattered, and a journal stained with what Harrow hoped was mud, but feared was blood. Lydia secured the journal, its pages a descent into obsession. Arthur wrote of the stone, speaking to him, promising knowledge of a sleeper beneath the earth. "It knows my name," he scrawled, the ink smudged as if written in haste. The gate must open. Lydia's scientific mind recoiled, yet the glyphs sketched in the journal echoed those in her dreams, their angles defying Euclidean logic. She resolved to visit the stone, and Harrow, with a grimace, agreed to escort her. The trek through the woods was a descent into oppression. The pines loomed, their branches knitting a canopy that choked the sunlight. The air grew heavy, tasting of iron and decay. The clearing, when they reached it, was a wound in the forest, a circle of barren earth where the stone squatted, 5 feet tall and unnaturally smooth, its surface carved with sigils that seemed to writhe under scrutiny. Lydia's pulse quickened as she approached, her instruments forgotten. The stone was warm to the touch, pulsing faintly, and as her fingers grazed its edge, a voice, not heard but felt, slithered through her mind. "You are known." She staggered back, breath ragged, and caught Harrow's gaze. His expression was unreadable, but his hand rested on his revolver. "Told you," he muttered. Lydia said nothing, her rationality fraying. In Dunridge, the stone's awakening fueled a fever of fear and fervor. Reverend Elijah Crane, a wiry man with eyes like burning coals, preached of a coming apocalypse. From the pulpit, of St. Dimphna's, a crumbling church on the town square. "The sleeper stirs," he bellowed, his sermons laced with visions of a world drowned in shadow. His congregation, pale, fervent faces, nodded in unison, their murmurs echoing the stone's whispers. Lydia attended a service, her notebook filling with observations. Crane's words struck too close to her dreams, describing a gate and a formless hunger that waited beyond. After the service, she approached him, but Crane's smile was a blade. "You seek truth, Doctor," he said, "but some truths devour." His cryptic warning lingered as she left, her unease deepening. Seeking answers, Lydia visited Helen Voss, an elderly recluse who lived in a decaying cottage at the town's edge. Helen was a specter of a woman, her white hair wild, her eyes sunken with grief. Her home was a shrine to the stone, walls plastered with yellowed sketchings of its glyphs, drawn by her late husband, Jacob, who had died a decade prior near the clearing. "He heard it," Helen rasped, clutching a sketch like a talisman. "The stone called him, and he answered. He's still there, listening." Lydia pressed for clarity, but Helen's voice dropped to a whisper. "The Silent Order guards it. They've always guarded it." When Lydia asked about the Order, Helen's eyes darted to the window as if expecting watchers. "They're everywhere," she hissed. "In the church, the fields, even the sheriff's blood." Lydia's research in Dunridge's meager library, a damp room above the town hall, unearthed fragments of their existence. Founded with the town in 1692, the Order was a cult cloaked in respectability, its members posing as farmers, merchants, even deacons. They revered the stone as a sentinel guarding a sleeper beneath the earth. Rituals hinted at blood offerings and chants to keep the sleeper dormant. Harrow's family name appeared in faded ledgers, tied to the Order's inner circle. Confronting him, Lydia found his defenses crumbling. "My grandfather was one of them," he admitted, his voice raw. "He said the stone's a lock, holding something back. The Order's kept it shut for centuries, but it's slipping. Mallory, he meddled, tried to open the gate. Now it's waking." Harrow revealed that Arthur had been seen chanting at the stone, carving glyphs into the earth before he vanished, leaving only a blood-streaked patch of soil. Lydia's dreams grew unbearable. Each night she stood before a chasm where the stone hovered, its whispers coalescing into a voice that shook her bones. "Free me." Shapes moved in the dark, formless yet alive with malign intent. She awoke gasping, her hands clawing the air. The journal's glyphs burned into her mind. Desperate, she organized a final expedition to the stone, enlisting Harrow and a reluctant Crane, whose prayers now sounded like pleas for mercy. They reached the clearing at dusk, the sky a bruise of purple and gold. The stone pulsed, its sigils glowing faintly, and the earth was scarred with fresh carvings, glyphs from Arthur's journal, arranged in a spiral. The air thrummed with a low, resonant hum, and the ground trembled as if something vast shifted below. Crane clutched his Bible, muttering verses that twisted into older, stranger words. Harrow's revolver gleamed in the fading light, his face pale. Lydia knelt to examine the glyphs, her fingers tracing their unnatural angles. The hum grew louder, a vibration that rattled her teeth, and the stone's whispers became a chorus. "Now." Helen Voss appeared then, unbidden, her frail form swaying as she emerged from the trees. Her lips moved in a chant, guttural and ancient, her eyes fixed on the stone. "He's coming," she keened, and Lydia realized she meant not Jacob, but something older, vaster. The earth split with a groan, a fissure yawning wide, exhaling a stench of sulfur, decay, and an alien rot that defied naming. From its depths rose tendrils of shadow, not light's absence, but a presence that devoured it, coiling toward the surface like the limbs of some unfathomable beast. Lydia's mind reeled as the whispers became a command. "Serve." Crane fell to his knees weeping, his Bible forgotten. Harrow fired into the fissure, the shot swallowed by the dark. Helen laughed, a sound of mad triumph, her chant rising to a scream. The tendrils reached for her, and she stepped forward as if embracing a lover. Lydia alone resisted, her rationality a fading ember. She seized Arthur's journal, its pages now warm, almost alive. A final entry scrawled in a trembling hand read, "To close the gate, blood must answer blood." With no time to question, Lydia drew her knife and slashed her palm, letting her blood drip onto the stone. The whispers screamed, a sound that clawed at her sanity, tearing at the edges of her mind. The fissure shuddered, the tendrils retreating, and the earth began to close, sealing the horror below. Helen collapsed, lifeless, her body crumpling like ash. Crane fled into the woods, his sobs fading into the night. Harrow, bloodied from a tendril's graze, helped Lydia stagger back to town, the stone's silence a fragile reprieve. Dunridge seemed unchanged, yet Lydia saw the Order's faces in the crowd, farmers, shopkeepers, even the innkeeper, watching her with veiled eyes. She left the next day, her report to Miskatonic a sterile account of geological anomalies and mass hysteria, but the truth gnawed at her. Arthur's fate remained unknown, though in her dreams his voice joined the stone's chorus, pleading or commanding. The Silent Order endured, tended to their secret rites, ensuring the stone's whispers stayed faint for now. Lydia burned Arthur's journal, but the glyphs lingered in her mind, as did the certainty that the sleeper waited, patient as eternity. In Dunridge the stone stood silent, its surface cold once more, but beneath the soil in a lightless gulf, where time held no sway, something stirred, dreaming of the day its gate would open. For that which is not dead can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die.